Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's Wednesday, September 11th, 2019. Hey, it's time for episode number 34 of the News Freaks. Hello out there, everybody. I'm Eddie, the Ed Man.
And I'm Terry. Welcome back, Ed Man. Good to see you again. Good to see that our listeners are gathered around the proverbial fireplace again to listen to us.
Right.
Come back. Ed Man, you survived Hurricane Dorian, it looks like.
Yeah, well, it wasn't hard to avoid a hurricane that was going 0 miles an hour there.
It was literally, it took its sweet-ass time.
Though it hit the Bahamas.
Yeah,
it sat on top. I couldn't even imagine.
I couldn't believe that it hit as hard as it did. I mean,
I
was expecting it to, do some damage here and there. We, again, as we just mentioned off the top here, we escaped anything really in any part of our city here.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it was just some, downed little branches and some wind and light rain, and that was that.
It was nice.
It
sucked all the bad weather away from us.
It did. And now we're in our week where we're start, to get out of the 90s, and we'll be in the high 80s. Then next week, maybe the mid 80s, and then we'll move our way down to comfort again.
Then it's fall. Fun time, fall.
Fun time.
Fall's my favorite season.
Well, anyways, folks, hope everybody's doing well out there. Again, good to have you back with the News Freaks. Listen, we got a jam-packed show here tonight. So if you want to interact with us, as always, the text line is open, area code 904-300-2475. Follow us on social media, the News Freaks on Facebook, at News Freaks Pod over there on Twitter, and also mail at thenewsfreaks.com.
That's right. Look how polished we're getting. That just rolled off. Oh, what you got there? The Wealth of Nations.
Well, listen, I found a real cheap leather binding, book binding service, so I've started writing the shows in those instead.
Harry has written the show on a series of index cards. He has to grip it like a brick with both hands.
It's really actually quite heavy. These are the times I wish we did have an intern. They could do like cue cards on a late night TV show.
Right.
Well, anyways, folks, of course, today is the 18th anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks, where we as a nation reflect back upon the horrible events of that day. We honor the 2,977 innocent civilians, first responders, and military personnel who tragically lost their lives at the hands of 19 Al-Qaeda hijackers there, Edman. Of course, all 4 planes that day headed out west to California from here on the East Coast. 2 hit the Twin Towers, 1 the Pentagon, and 1 in a field there in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. If not for the heroic actions of those aboard that last flight, who knows where that final plane would have hit. They said White House, the Capitol, Camp David, or maybe one of the nuclear reactors. So obviously heroes abound on that day. It's honestly kind of hard to believe that was 18 years ago.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I just had this conversation with your lady out there in the studio here. When this was going down, obviously we were living it firsthand, but I knew we would see this day, but I never really envisioned what it would be like to have to talk to somebody who wasn't born yet about this event.
Yeah.
And it happened to me the other day, actually.
Really?
A young lady, she was born in 2003, was asking about what it actually was like that day.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm sure some of our listeners are, much older than we are. I mean, we're in our 40s. I'm sure some are a little bit younger, but I was only 23 at the time when it happened. Yeah. Where were you at, Ed?
Oh my God. I was waiting for my studio to call me.
To come into work, or to come in for
to come into work
for a and you were
and then they're like, don't bother.
And then you kind of, like the rest of us, kind of just transfixed on the TV there.
Yeah.
I was at the time, I was a DJ, a wedding singer type wedding DJ for a company in ironically enough, in New York. But I was outside Albany, so I was nowhere near what had happened. But our brains couldn't process it. I had so many friends and family like calling panicked, like, "Are you okay, Terry?" Just knowing I was in New York, even though I was hours and hours away from what was going on. Yeah. It's just a surreal moment. But now that we're older, I mean, it's we look back on it now, it's clearly a where were you when kind of moment of our lifetime.
Absolutely.
We see it today on social media, people sharing their tributes and recollections. We could spend hours discussing this, but I mean, we don't really have to. I think we remember, how people came together in the days after the event. We took each other a little bit less for granted, I'd probably say, right?
Yeah.
And we found a sense of resiliency, and here we are 18 years later, still trying to come together as a country in a lot of ways, and trying to put that behind us as best we can. But we here at the News Freaks, we do want to remember this day and honor the memory of those injured or perished as that day. In other news, Ed.
Now, hang on.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that we've gotten the heavy stuff out of the way.
Well, I couldn't put it in the middle.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. But I just want to say that what you gave was the official story.
Now, for those of you who may not have seen 9/11 even happen, you would not know who he's talking about. But there used to be a radio personality, and his name was...
Are you talking about Paul Harvey?
Paul Harvey, right?
No, I wasn't referencing that.
What were you?
I was referencing the 9/11 truthers.
Loose change you wanted me to bring up.
Loose change? You know about loose change?
Why, what did I know about loose change? What did Paul Harvey used to say? And that's
the rest of the story.
And you said I gave the official story.
Yeah, I said you gave the official story.
Yeah. I almost, just...
Because you're a tool of the establishment.
Oh, boy, here we go.
I mean, that's what I hear.
Well, speaking of being a tool of the establishment...
Now, hang on, I got one more thing here.
Oh, boy.
Because are you what you're going on? I know, we got a lot of shots.
Honestly, we're fine. If the
But
listeners
look,
are okay, if they want to stick with us through
I've
this...
got a 9/11 story to tell, and it isn't tragic or anything like that. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on whose point of view you're looking at.
Right.
So I'm working at a studio, and the head of this studio comes up, and he says look, this guy's like 75 years old, okay? And he comes up to make a speech. And everyone's sitting there watching this, a very important guy, waiting for him to say something. And I swear to God, this is what he says.
When did this happen? It happened shortly after?
1 month.
Okay.
This has happened 1 month after the tragedy. Okay, 1 month. Keep this in mind. He comes up there, and in front of everyone, he's at the podium. He says, last month, a tragic event happened. And everyone nodded at each other. Oh, knowingly, right? Oh, yeah. He says, the Rockettes disbanded.
Oh my God. His comedy career.
And then he just kept on going. And, when he said the joke, there were a couple of groans like, oh like
boy.
that.
Yeah.
But then he kept on going, and nobody ever said anything about it. And I looked over at my coworker, and I gave her a glance like, what just happened?
Now, Edmund, I will tell you right now, had you and I been working together at that moment and that happened, I would have had to leave the room, probably. There was no way we could have stayed in there.
I couldn't believe the stones on that guy. How could you even dare? And, it's bad now. This is 1 month out.
And 2 weeks later, he was on Leno. It was unreal.
Oh my God.
No,
I don't think
he
back
wasn't.
then I think it would have been on an FBI watch list.
Yeah, this is true.
Those were dark times, guys, for those of you who were not around.
No,
at that
and
point.
that's what, again, having that conversation with your lady there, we talked about. If you weren't around to experience it, which most of our listeners were, but there are those few that were little toddlers or babies, you just can't understand the gravity of just staring at your TV for the next 2, 3, 4 days and just feeling probably 100 different emotions all at once.
And I think that this is what they mean by never forget. They mean don't let the future generations forget.
Yeah.
Because personally, I mean, like, you couldn't forget, right? If somebody was like, hey, remember that time you were watching TV and the tallest buildings in the world got hit by airplanes?
I mean, it's ringing a bell vaguely.
It's like, yeah, I kind of remember that. What about it?
It's very true. Very, very true.
You could never forget.
It literally is. We could live another 50, 60 years and it'll probably be the defining moment of our lives.
It was our Kennedy assassination, our Pearl Harbor.
Absolutely.
And our, were you around when were you old enough to remember when the shuttle blew up?
Well, Edman, spoiler alert, it may or may not be a game time question today.
Oh, my goodness.
And again, our listeners know.
Terry, we can't have a game time about tragic events in U.S. history.
We don't.
Please do not tell me.
I promise that's not the game time. I promise that's not the game time.
Guys, if you get the show and it's like 20 minutes long, just realize that we had to make the edits.
Well, anyways, those of you who listen to the show know that I write the show, and Edman is totally in the dark as to what is coming coming
he's
at
gonna be
him.
talking about.
So he had no idea when he mentioned that, but we will be talking a little bit more about that Challenger incident later in the show. Okay, Edman, we're going to move on. As you were saying before, tool of the establishment. Well, tomorrow night, a bunch of tools of the establishment will be having another debate.
Should I start introducing you that way? And Terry, the tool of the establishment. Yeah, that's right.
And it'll be the first time all the candidates will share the same stage on the same night.
And they really are tools of the establishment because they knocked out Tulsi Gabbard.
Speaking of Tulsi, Edman, I saw something the other day that made me think of you and your lady, and I almost sent it to you guys on social media. It was this video, maybe a minute-long clip of Tulsi working out like a mad lady in a gym.
Oh my God, talk about never forget. Yeah, yeah, that's
I know
a
you
nice
guys
looking
enjoyed
lady,
that,
dude.
right?
Yeah, we had some fun to that one.
It was pretty provocative.
It was like Christmas.
I mean,
came early. I mean it.
Oh dear God. Well, I mean,
I like Tulsi Gabbard.
I mean, obviously she's an attractive woman.
Yeah, I mean, I'm watching her and I'm like, oh my God, Tulsi, what are you doing? But sex sells.
Hey, tell me about it. Just ask Elizabeth Warren.
I would rather not do that.
So what do you think? Are you going to be watching the debates tomorrow, Edman?
Yeah, I will, definitely. I'm interested in all this stuff.
I think it's going to be very interesting. I can't wait to see the dynamic of the real front runners. And by the way, probably right now you've got 10 of them up there, but you're probably down to the final 5 at this point.
Hey, I wonder if any of them are going to accuse someone else of being a racist.
I mean, it could happen.
It could.
There's a very good chance. But yeah, I'm interested.
There's a greater chance that it will happen than that it won't.
I'm interested in watching that as well. So we will keep our eyes on that. But I'm more interested in watching some more football. Week 1 just
completed. Are you ready for the football?
Yeah, man. Wow, you know that song. Speaking of racist, they brought Hank Williams Jr. back recently.
They did really
do
did
that? They brought him back.
I thought he got banned for racist comments.
He did. Hey, listen.
They just forgot
America
about it?
loves a second or third or fourth chance, Edman. You know that.
I don't know if that's true. In today's cancel culture,
This is
you know
true.
what? Maybe they brought him back just to cancel him again.
Well, we did talk on the last show, which was 2 weeks ago, which it only seemed like 3 days ago. But because of all the hurricane goings on and everything, we couldn't. It wasn't safe for us to come out.
Life was put on hold.
Yeah. So football's back. The season returned September 5th, as we'd mentioned. The Green Bay Packers defeated the Chicago Bears on that Thursday night game 10-3. And then we officially came back with our full slate of games this past Sunday and Monday. Lots of storylines already in the NFL, Edman.
I'll bet they're all interesting.
They are, actually. Andrew Luck, stunningly, announced his retirement at the age of 29 right before September 5th.
Why did he do that?
He's dealt with some injuries the last couple of years. He's had some shoulder and arm issues. All 7 years he played with the Indianapolis Colts, and he just came out and said, you know what, guys, I'm young. I made a lot of money. I want to enjoy this time with my wife and travel, and I'm done. And the fans actually, in the last preseason game, the fans in Indianapolis actually showered him not with adulation, but with a chorus of boos as he was walking out the field. Now, this is horrible. Let me tell you, I'm a huge sports fan and a huge football fan. Seeing this really was kind of disgusting. This guy gave you his 20s, the decade of his life. He's in his prime as an athlete, and that's the thanks he gets.
Andrew's middle name should have been Bad.
He did. Well, anyways, Colts fans, they have to get used to their successor. His name's Jacoby Brissett. He actually played a solid game this past Sunday. Led the Colts to a bunch of touchdowns. They lost the heartbreaker in overtime, though, to the Chargers 30-24. My Giants, looks like it might be a long year for me. We got beat pretty handily by the Cowboys, who are rivals of ours, 35-17. I didn't even have to watch it to know that was going to happen.
I don't follow sports, so Terry's here trying to make eye contact with me. I'm just giving a blank stare. I have no idea.
This is not for Edman at
here,
all.
That's all right.
This is in the news. We also have to talk about the Antonio Brown fiasco that's been happening.
Okay.
Edman, it's continuing to play out. I know you don't know. Brown's an elite wide receiver in the NFL. He played all of his 8-year career with the Pittsburgh Steelers until that relationship with the team and star quarterback Ben Roethlisberger soured last season.
Oh, yeah, Roethlisberger.
You know, his son He's son of an Arena Football League legend, Eddie Touchdown
Arena
Brown.
Football?
Yeah, Touchdown Eddie Brown. He played for the Albany Firebirds.
I've heard that name, despite the fact that I do not follow the
sport. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Well, anyways, this offseason, the Steelers said, forget it, we're done with this guy. They traded Antonio Brown, who goes by the moniker AB, just his initials,
Nice.
Traded him to the Oakland Raiders. Needless to say, this did not succeed either. He missed almost every practice with like a bunch of ailments. He got frostbite on his feet from like a cryotherapy session. He had a grievance against the NFL asking to wear a particular kind of helmet.
Yeah.
Because they weren't going to let him wear the old helmet. They have updated standards for safety now. He did manage to find one that worked when he signed on with the Zenith Shadow helmet last week. Zenith, who knew? I thought they only made like old projector tube TVs.
Yeah, I thought they just made radios.
Well, anyways, his general manager, Mike Mayock, fined him $54,000 due to the excessive absences. Antonio Brown took to Instagram to post the fine letter. He and Mayock got into it screaming, almost came to blows about it. He was fined another $215,000. They said they were going to void his guaranteed money of about $20 million. So this past Saturday, the Raiders said, forget it. They released the guy, and guess who was there to quickly scoop him up? The beloved New England Patriots, America's sweetheart in the football world. They drew more ire. They gave him 1 year, $9 million guaranteed. He can make up to $15 million with an option. Everybody's happy, right?
Yeah.
Well, not so fast. Yesterday, he was accused in a civil suit of sexual assault by his ex-personal trainer.
Just in time for the season.
Just in time. He couldn't play the game Sunday night, which was, ironically enough, the Patriots against the Pittsburgh Steelers, his old team.
That's too bad. We didn't get a chance to see a big matchup.
We didn't need it. The Patriots whomped them 33-3. It was an embarrassment for the Steelers.
Yeah.
Well, Brown's been accused of this sexual assault suit here, and both him and his lawyer are calling it a pure money grab by the lady. So that's going to play out in the next weeks and months to come, I'm sure. And one last note. Remember we did the Super Bowl special last year with our buddy Luke.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was fun, right? The Saints, they played Monday night, and they almost got screwed by the refs again.
Really?
Believe it or not, but they overcame it to win on a last-second 57-yard Will Lutz field goal. They won by 2 points. Welcome back, NFL, right? Let's hope the rest of the season keeps these storylines coming and the Patriots stay out of the Super Bowl.
Man, that game is brutal on and off the field. Huh? I can't believe they're so mean to Andrew Luck.
It's almost like it's a soap opera for adults, I believe.
I thought that was wrestling.
I did too, but I'm starting to think more and more it's good. In fact, remember Vince McMahon? He used to have the XFL.
XFL.
That's coming back next year.
Well, now's the time is right. It was ahead of its time.
It was. Well, he's going to give it
everyone's like, oh, no one's going to go for this immature garbage. But now we have UFC and we have Trump, and it's perfect time for this.
It's perfect time.
Smash
I
Mouth
bet you
is
it's
back.
a success now, especially with Andrew Luck and Antonio Brown in the league next year. That's going to be a big star power there. Anyways, Ed, man, news thing number one. We're going to head to Montoursville, Pennsylvania for this first story. Another Pennsylvania story.
What's the name of the city?
Montoursville.
Montours sounds very erudite.
Yeah, Montoursville.
Montoursville.
And
I'm saying it.
Yeah, it's nice. I
I
mean,
think I'll name
I don't
my
know
dog.
what it looks like there.
When I get a dog, I'll name it Montoursville.
Hey, Montoursville. Anyways, Ed, I'm sure you're like me, and that you and our listeners
We're nothing alike, Ter.
have. Well, let me finish. I'm sure we've all spent countless hours daydreaming of the fantasy of a sudden financial windfall.
We are alike.
I told you. See?
have more in common than I thought.
I mean, listen, the Tulsi Gabbard video and a financial windfall. We're basically twin brothers. So anyways, what would we do with that newfound cash? Like, what would us and the listeners do if it happened to us?
I would donate to Tulsi's campaign and try to get in her good graces.
Yeah. Can I be speechwriter, campaign manager, anything? Can I follow you around with a wet rag? Well, anyways, Ed, this dream of suddenly coming into all this money, it happened to this one couple there in Montoursville. Their names are Robert and Tiffany Williams, and their local BB&T bank made a deposit into their account on May 31st of $120,000.
Oh my goodness.
The only problem was it belonged to a customer in Georgia. The teller made a boo-boo and put in the wrong account number.
Right.
Now, Ed, in a former life, I was actually a head teller for a bank.
Yeah.
So this is the stuff of nightmares. I mean, in our dreams, we are seeing account numbers and our fingers are just flailing in the air as we're like, having kind of like a sleepwalk episode. Well, this was the part that really interested me. The bank, now the couple knew right off the bat, and they admitted this to police after they were questioned about this. They knew there was no way this money was legitimately theirs. They knew it was an accident. So, of course, they called the bank and let them know there's been a horrible mistake, right? Of course, they did not do that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a story. The bank tried to make contact with the couple several times after the customer in Georgia was like, yo, my 120 grand,
Where is it?
It's not there. I might notice that was missing. I might notice it before June 21st when they got hold of the couple.
Yeah.
It was like 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? Well, anyways, in that 3 weeks, the Williams couple there, they went on a massive shopping spree. They spent in that 2 weeks about $100 grand of the $120,000.
Now this can't be legal.
Well, listen, they might be in a little bit of hot water right now. First of all, what they spend it on, folks, would you have done the same? They bought an SUV, a camper, a couple four-wheelers, a race car. Also gave a few loans out to friends and family. So when the bank finally did get, the credit to the right account and debited their account, it led to an overdraft charge of $107,416 for the Williams couple there.
Well, it could have been worse.
They did have $1,121 in their account before this snafu, so that kind of helped cover some of it. And they didn't spend the entire 120. Like you said, it could have been worse.
I thought they were going to go crazy.
Listen, we better save some of this for retirement. By the way, fire up the four-wheelers. We're going riding. At first, Tiffany Williams, and she's 35, so I'm guessing the couple is both in that age range.
Oh my goodness! That is old enough to know
that
when
this
you
is,
get that much money just shows up in your account.
Right.
You just go and just start spending.
Well, she promised the bank that she and her husband would work out a repayment plan, but then the future calls went unanswered. Communication kind of stopped after that. No, we're gonna work something out with you guys. Just give us a little time. Well, now the couple does, as you said, Ed. They face 3 felony theft charges and receiving stolen property. Like I said, they admitted to those police they knew the money wasn't theirs, but they spent it anyways. But what a fun 2 weeks, huh? I mean,
that's the stuff dreams are made of. Really,
they made, and now nightmares.
It was all worth it.
They made their first court appearance.
You can't take away the memories. You can take away the SUV. But the memories are here forever.
Happy days are here again. Well, the couple made their first court appearance on Monday, and they were released on $25,000 bail. So maybe they did sell one of the four-wheelers of the race car. I don't know what went on. But Williams did say outside the courtroom, and this is a direct quote.
Okay.
All I'm going to say is we took some bad legal advice from some people, and it probably wasn't the best thing in the end. I mean, what do you think of that, Ed, man?
I'm calculating how long it would take if we were to work out a payment plan that I would like. And if I was in that situation,
right.
my payment plan would work
out.
I would have it paid off in 175 years.
Wait, how much are you paying? Are you doing
$50 a month?
That should work for both parties
That's
involved.
Not so bad,
That's
though.
pretty good. As long as you don't miss a payment or two, you should be right on track.
I was like, okay, here's my will, and here's a little something for you guys to take care of.
Well, Ed, man, let
what? With the way inflation is going, you'll probably come out ahead.
let this be a listener's word of warning to our listeners and to us. If we see that money pop in there like that quick, maybe if we only spend 15 or 20 grand of it, would be okay.
Yeah. Let's think of it as a short-term loan, right?
All right, Ed, man, off we move to game time.
All right, game time. Can't wait to hear what this one is.
It's the biggest disasters in it. No, I'm only joking.
Oh, my God.
And you should have seen Ed look at me right there. Okay, so what I really want to do, Ed, man, before we start this game time up, I'd like to see if I can track down that BB&T Bank employee and have him or her on the show and see if they still work there in any capacity.
I would love to track that dude down.
You know what they
that
do?
Would be great.
You know what I bet they do is they direct traffic to the drive-through instead of the tubes shooting up through the drive-through there. They have to physically run the tubes inside of the tellers and run them back out in the hot sun all day.
I want to ask him what went through his mind when he realized.
We don't know if it was a male
mistake.
or female. They didn't give away the
Do you think
gender.
a lady would screw up that bad?
Probably not. Probably not.
I mean, this is banking, not driving.
Where's our rim shot? Where'd that machine go?
I think it's here. Wait. No,
Okay,
that's
good
the wrong
enough.
one.
Good enough.
I forgot all the buttons, man.
Oh my god. Hey, there she is. Hey, better late than never.
That's right.
Well, it got me thinking of some of the major blunders or boo-boos, missteps, mistakes that have happened throughout the course of history, right? And it doesn't have to be necessarily tragic.
Right.
Although you unfortunately unveiled one of the answers that was tragic.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that all of these are tragic. They might have been tragic in their own way, but not necessarily to
I hope
human.
I get the one I guessed already.
I hope you don't. That will make things so much funnier. So we're going to call this quiz, instead of game time, we'll call it Gaffe time.
Gaffe, oh, I like it.
Do you like it?
Yeah, Gaffe time.
I thought of that all by myself. All right, here we go. Listeners at home, play along. See how you do on this one. Play along with the Ed Man. We'll start at the top. Question number 1. A notoriously messy worker, Sir Alexander Fleming is credited with the accidental discovery of what?
Oh my goodness, notorious. Geez.
Happened in 1928, Edmund.
I'm gonna say you're gonna have to give me a few on this one. Play-Doh.
No, but that's a good guess.
I'm gonna say silly putty.
Good guess as well, but let me tell you,
Radiation.
he ended up winning being a co-winner of the Nobel the Nobel Prize for Science in 1945 because of this particular discovery.
Nuclear fission?
No. Now, let me tell you, you gonna give up on this one or no?
Yeah, I guess so.
It's penicillin, Edman.
Oh, that was gonna be my 8th guess.
Yeah. He had been studying.
I'm so
He'd
disappointed.
been studying properties of Staphylococcus.
Hey, left the damn thing
Staphylococcus?
out, and it, yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it? Is that like
Staphylococcus.
Is that Staphylococcus? Yeah, is that like a friend of Snuffleupagus on Sesame Street? It's like the
his brother.
ne'er-do-well brother that calls it, hey, you got room
Evil
for me?
Staphylococcus.
Well, anyways, he went on vacation for the entire month of August 1928. He just said, you know what, I'm a biologist. I'm not getting paid great for this right now. I'm going to take a whole month off. He and the family went away. He comes back September 3rd, and he saw that one of the cultures had been contaminated, but all of the staff within it had been eradicated.
Yeah.
But the ones on the outside had it.
Yeah.
So this truly was because of his slovenly work environment.
Wow.
Was a accidental discovery.
And that changed history.
It changed
That
history.
saved uncountable lives.
In fact, Ed, I'm looking around the studio right now. I'll be shocked if you don't win a Nobel
I got
Prize.
a few experiments going myself.
All right. One more note on old Alexander Fleming there. When he saw what had happened, he said, "That's funny." That was his exact quote. Like, that's funny.
Not all words are momentous, right?
Yeah.
Not all quotes.
Apparently, he said the same thing when he had one of his other breakthrough. Never mind. We'll
What are you trying to say?
We'll save that one for later, maybe.
Right.
Okay, question number 2. At the end of the 1950s, Ford introduced what they branded as the car of the future. But this wrong car at the wrong time ended up costing the company more than $250 million.
The Edsel.
Yes, Edman, the Edsel was correct. The Edsel. Very weird. It cost them that in development, manufacturing, and marketing. So that's a big chunk of change, right?
Yeah.
In the 3 years, they sold the car from 58, 59, and 60. They sold 116,000 of these total. And to even break even, they had to sell like almost 300,000 of these things. Yeah. So this was a momentous disaster. And you look at the car now, it looks pretty sleek. It doesn't look bad.
Well, for back then.
I guess
back then, when I was a kid, I thought the thing looked like a whale.
You did.
And I was like, I could see why that didn't sell.
Okay.
But nowadays it does
But
look, it
I
looks fine.
think from what I was reading, it was more about performance than
It
it
needed
really
a
was
spoiler.
about look.
Yeah.
those hubcaps and rims that light up, different colors.
Yeah, the
at night.
Edsel had that. That was pretty good.
man.
They had the
Spinners.
The
They had
spinners.
spinning rims. Yeah, that was the appeal for a lot.
And they
of
had the lights that could see ahead around the corners.
a lot of those
Was
Ward.
that the Tucker guys thing?
I don't know. I'm not sure. That was a lot of the Ward Cleaver families back then liked the spinning rims. Though,
Yeah,
I do know that.
yeah.
All right, Edman, you're 1 for 2. Question number 3. Unusually cold temps and faulty O-ring seal design were to blame for what 1986
Yeah, that
disaster.
would be the Challenger.
That would be the Challenger, Edman. Another horrible moment in history, really. This was crazy, and I remember this happening. I was a young kid, but I remember this happening. Approximately like 17% of America watched this happen live.
Yeah, I saw it.
Because it featured Krista McAuliffe, who was the first teacher, in space.
Yeah.
So they were showing it.
Well,
in
they
a lot
made
of
the school
schools.
watch it.
Exactly, and how scarred.
In hindsight, that was a bad decision.
Well, they didn't know. What I found.
No, of course not.
Obviously, the whole incident was tragic. All 7 crew obviously killed immediately. The thing disintegrated 73 seconds after takeoff. It was January 28th of that year, 1986. The year before, McAuliffe had beat out 11,000 other applicants to receive this honor in the NASA Teacher in Space project.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Like imagine being one of those applicants and thinking, "Wow, this could have been me. I could have been.
Oh yeah.
I could have been awarded the Congressional Space Medal of Honor posthumously in 2004, like Krista McAuliffe was."
After it was like the day after, a classmate comes up to me and says, "You know what NASA stands for?"
Oh, God.
I said, "What?" Yeah, it's one of those. I said, "What?" And he says, "Needs another 7 astronauts." And I looked at him like. And I thought, you monster.
And that man went on to become a studio partner of yours.
and that man is here with me now, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, thank you. Anyways, this unfortunately was not an isolated thing for NASA. In 2003, didn't Columbia, a similar situation. That was, they were about 5 or 6 minutes from touching down back to Earth. And the thing exploded, killing all 7 aboard that time as well. So, I can see how a lot could go wrong. I give astronauts a world of credit.
And, just like the old West, these pioneers are the people who deserve all the recognition for all the risks that they've taken. They call it the final frontier.
Unreal.
And I would never,
me neither,
ever have the guts.
I remember
to get on probably ever on any space flight, much less one of the early first ones.
Unreal. Really, like you say, pioneers and just American heroes, really, because who knows? It might be after we're dead and gone, but space travel and exploring other, possible avenues of life somewhere out there. This is it's gonna change. It's alter humanity if we can make it that.
But could
long.
you imagine? It's like in the 60s, right? And you're on the damn moon,
right?
You're like, you look out, you see the Earth over there. You're like, man, that was really long. That's far away.
Seems hot.
What goes through your mind?
Then you call up the Elon Musk Uber there, and he'll Uber you back and forth between the planets.
Oh yeah, he's trying to do that.
Yeah, we talked about that on a previous episode. I don't remember which one that was, but anyways, Edman, very good. You are now 2 for 3.
If it's an Uber, I'll trust it.
We're headed to question.
Listen, you know what? I just started doing Ubers lately because my car is messed up.
I do Uber and Lyft all the time.
I can't listen. I call them.
Right.
They're there before I get my bag.
2 or 3 minutes,
and walk
my man.
out the door.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm still finishing my cereal.
Now,
and they're
Ed,
there already.
You got it. When you're ready to order, be ready to order. Number 1. Number 2, make sure you're looking at that license plate number and asking, Felipe, is that you? Pierre, is that you? You don't want to get in a bad situation.
I think that's good advice generally, but for me, I need some excitement in my life. Maybe this is the dude, maybe it's not. We'll see.
I actually just read that 911 services or capabilities were going to be put in Uber and Lyft cars because there's been some horrible incidents that have happened in the last year or two.
My girlfriend told me about Lyft. She says, I never use Uber, I use Lyft. And she says it's cheaper. And then I said, prove it. So she pulls it up.
Right.
This one time, Uber was cheaper than Lyft.
No
She's
way.
like, damn it. Yeah, she installed the app and everything just to prove me wrong. But generally, I do find that Lyft is cheaper
Honestly,
than Uber.
I don't have a preference with either. I know some have gone through some
the same
controversy.
drivers.
Yeah, yes,
They
you're
have
right.
two
They
things
switch
there. They're
between
like,
the
yeah.
apps. Absolutely. I mean, probably 70 or 80% of the drivers will switch between the
No
two apps.
loyalty. You know, that's a problem with the world nowadays.
Well, Ed, I'm loyal to you and the listeners. We're gonna soldier on here. Question number 4. A mere 10-foot foundation set in weak, unstable subsoil was the main culprit of this flawed structure's construction, which completed in 1399. It's a long time ago.
A long time ago. Substandards.
A mere 10-foot foundation set in weak, unstable subsoil was the main culprit of this flawed structure's construction, which completed in 1399.
1399. What could that possibly be? 1399.
It has 251 steps, and it stands about 183 feet tall from the first.
Got steps.
Yeah.
It's maybe one of the Aztec pyramids in Mexico?
Good guess, Ed.
Because you know Mexico quality.
They're not sending their best. I get it, Ed. 1990, there was a lean of 5.5 degrees, but we've got it since down to 3.97 degrees.
I don't know what it is, Tara. Why are you humiliating me like this?
The Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Wait, that was made in the 1300s?
It was actually started in 1177.
How do I not know that?
It took them 200 plus years to build
they're
that
lazy.
thing. Well, I think they also knew that they had made a mistake putting it on this horrible plot of land, so they were waiting for wars to happen.
It must have been a government
So it could
contract. We need more. We need a little more.
Yeah,
Never got
it's
it
kind of
right.
like the highway work here in Jacksonville,
It's
right?
like the courthouse here in Jacksonville.
Very true. All right, folks, question number 5. Ed, man, I'm just going to ask a question. You may not know this at all, but I am going
I
to
probably don't.
I'm going to give the backstory on it because
Yeah.
it is the only sports-related question of this quiz.
Okay.
In the infamous Steve Bartman incident, what color turtleneck was he wearing?
Christ.
Again, I know you probably won't know this. I know a lot of sports-minded people at home know. Do you know the Steve Bartman story, first of all?
I know.
Okay, well, I'm gonna get into that for you. Do you want me to tell the story first and guess, or you want to guess first and I'll tell the story? Okay. Well, here's what happened, Ed. October 14th, 2003, the Cubs, they were playing Game 6 of the National League Championship Series. They were 5 outs away from going to their first World Series since 1945. So pretty big moment here, right?
A lot is on the line, yes.
Well, Marlins batter Luis Castillo hit a fly ball into foul territory in left field, and Moises Alou leapt up over the stands to make an attempt to catch it. And a bunch of fans reached out for the ball, but Steve Bartman actually hit the ball and deflected it away from the Cubs player. And this game was being played in Wrigley Field, which is the Cubs' home park. Okay. So the fans, Lou starts yelling at the guy like, I could have caught that. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Even though there were 10 plus people trying to catch this ball. It just deflected off this poor guy's hand.
Yeah.
So of course, the Cubs going into that moment were ahead 3-0 with 5 outs to go. After the Steve Bartman play, it turned the tide. The Marlins went on to score 8 runs after that play. As Fox cameras continued to show a somber image of Bartman, he was sitting there with his Sony Walkman headphones on because he was listening probably to the radio play-by-play. And the radio play-by-play guys were probably like, do you see this asshole again? So this poor guy, nowhere to hide. He's like literally in a horrible... He eventually had to be escorted from the stadium several minutes later. I mean, fans were starting to throw shit at him, call him asshole.
No.
Oh, it got really, really bad for this guy.
Well, baseball's brutal too.
They ended up losing, so they had to go to a Game 7, which was played the next night in Wrigley Field, and the Cubs were ahead at 1.5-3.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, ended up losing 9-6. Did not go to the World Series. The curse continued, and everybody blamed this poor guy, Steve Bartman. And you couldn't have felt more for a guy as a sports fan. I mean, it was really tragic the way this guy got treated.
It sounds like at that point the Cubs were cursed anyway.
Well, they were.
And he was merely a vehicle.
They did end up breaking that curse, Ed, a couple years ago, 2016, November 2nd, they won it all against the Indians, their first World Series since 1945.
Almost predicted by Back to the Future.
Almost, exactly. I thought this was a classy move by the Cubs organization. They actually gave Steve Bartman a championship ring.
Really?
They did, for all his years of suffering and torment.
Oh, wow.
Now, Bartman has literally not come out in public. He doesn't give interviews. He doesn't do... They've offered him hundreds and thousands of dollars to be an ambassador, throw out the first pitch.
Really?
He will not come out. He said he's thrilled that the Cubs won, and he just wanted to move on with his life.
He accepted one, but like BB&T didn't give him the money. Right?
It's true. Well, anyways, one last note on this thing here. December 2003, that loose ball, because he had obviously clanked off his hands, but somebody else ended up picking it up. He ended up selling the ball at auction to Harry Carey's restaurant group. Harry Carey was the longtime announcer for the Cubs there, for $113,000, where they promptly destroyed it in a public display in February. They blew the ball up.
My goodness.
They blew it up. And hey, listen, it worked. They won it in 2016.
Yeah.
If you want to know more, because this was a fascinating sports story and a human interest story, there's a 2011 documentary, a 30 for 30, an ESPN 30 for 30 film called Catching Hell. And it documents this whole situation.
A great name.
So, Ed, that was the Bartman story. With that knowledge, what color turtleneck do you think he may have been wearing?
Let's see now. Well, he
had a Cubs cap on, with his Sony walk. It was a blue with the red and white C emblem. His Sony Walkman headphones on, and then a black sweater on over this turtleneck, like a black sweatshirt on over the turtleneck.
So let's see. Determining everything I could. So the Cubs logo is blue, right? And red.
It's red, white, and
C.
blue. Right.
Red,
there's elements of all three in there.
And because he deflected it, I'm going to assume that he was colorblind. So the turtleneck is green.
Green is absolutely correct, Edman.
Yeah.
I love the logic you came up with. But anyways, Edman, if you want, you can look up a image of Steve Bartman and see his poor face there as I go on to question 6, so you can get a good look.
We're not done yet?
You thought that was it?
Oh, that was a great topper.
You think I should have done that for question 10?
No, maybe not. Let's see.
I think I did another fall of civilization for that last one. I'm not quite
All right,
sure.
Let's see what else
Question number 6.
Game time, overtime game time.
Oh, this is regular game time, Edman. Okay. 12 days after co-founding this company in 1976, Ronald Wayne sold back his 10% stake for $800. 12 days after co-founding this company in 1976, Ronald Wayne sold back his 10% stake for $800.
$800? 10% stake? After co-founding it? It's got to be the only 10%, though. I would say it's the McDonald's brothers, right? It's McDonald's.
That was a great guess. It was
Ronald.
It was actually, believe it or not, the third co-founder of Apple.
Oh, okay.
45% was Wozniak's, 45% was Steve Jobs. They wanted him for the tiebreaker because he was the third co-founder. He actually he wrote the first what do you call that? The first
program
the first manual
code.
He did the first manual. He drew the first logo. He did the first partnership agreement.
Okay.
So they wanted him to be kind of a tiebreaker on certain, certain things. Well, he had been burnt by trying to start a slot machine company that failed in the early 70s. This poor guy. So it made him very risk averse and very nervous. So he met these two whiz kids when they all were working at Atari. And he was kind of the old man in the block. He was 41, while Wozniak and Jobs were 25 and 21 respectively. Yeah. So they were still young kids, and he was probably thinking, "Oh God, I should just take what I can get now, right?"
Yeah.
Well, 1 year after that $800 sellback, he accepted another $1,500 to forfeit any future claims to the company ever. So he $2,300 for his 10%. Today, Edman. It's sick to say, and that's why this is on the tragic boo-boo mistake list, That 10% would it be worth about $94 billion.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a little backstory on Mr. Wayne here. He says he doesn't regret it, believe it or not. He says he just can't.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Fly a space shuttle every week for $94 billion?
Well, he said he'd probably be dead if he had stayed with that whole process the entire way through because of what a nervous ride it was and what a nervous fellow he is.
He hates investments. Think of the money he could have lost with $94 billion.
Now, he does regret selling the original contract paperwork that has all three of their signatures.
Yeah.
He sold that in the early 90s for $500. It just sold at auction in 2011 for $1.6 million.
Cannot win for
he
losing.
can't win for losing. It's unreal.
This guy's name should be Bad Luck.
Well, now he lives in a mobile home park. I'm not kidding.
No.
Yeah, in Pahrump, Nevada. There, that little town outside of Reno or Vegas.
Yeah.
He sells stamps, rare coins, plays penny slots in a casino, and just kind of lives his life. He has written 2 books. He wrote a book, about Apple and the exploits of it all, which I think did fairly well. I mean, he made a lot of money at Atari and whatever. But I mean, how do you recover from you must be sick every day you wake up, right?
I mean, yeah, you would think that would make you more nervous is looking at what you could have had. I mean, God, every day.
I mean, he plays penny slots now. I mean, his biggest hit on that is going to be like, how could you be excited over a $500 hit on a penny slot?
You know what he could get a job doing? Giving investment advice, and then you just do the opposite of whatever he says.
Poor guy, though. Like you kind of, I kind of see where his mind may have been. It was probably an era where every bright whiz kid had this idea.
He probably thought, just get what I can get.
Yeah. I mean, these kids are going to...
Hindsight's 20/20.
Absolutely. I'm glad it wasn't me. Let me say that. All right, question number... Ed, what are you? You're 3 out of 6, right? You're 3 and 3. The question 7, the biggest scandal ever to hit the auto industry came in September 2015 when this company admitted it had deployed cheat software to give false readings on over 11 million emission tests on vehicles.
Oh my goodness, I remember this.
Yeah.
This was oh wow, who was this?
I saw this on the Netflix documentary series Dirty Money. This was a fascinating story. Really rocked the world. It rocked the stock market. It rocked everything for that. Can you think of what company cars was trying to make some more eco-friendly vehicles?
Right. I mean, I could see a Ford doing this, but I feel like it was a company that had surprised me at the time.
It probably is, if you're thinking that way now.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. Who was it?
It was Volkswagen.
Yes.
Volkswagen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
A day after the scandal broke, their stock plummeted 40%.
And deservedly so.
Their CEO,
falsify results.
Martin Winterkorn, he was forced to resign. The scandal all told cost Volkswagen about $20 billion.
Yeah.
But they have such a great PR and marketing team that they were able to turn that around fairly quickly.
Let me guess, they bought Apple stock.
Oh, they should have. No, they actually asked Mr. Wayne, what do we do? And he told them, just stay the course, you'll be fine. And they said, nope, we need a new ad campaign. Right. We got to rebuild from the inside out.
Will you please design us a logo?
Yeah, Das Auto. But yeah, that was a crazy story, and I can't believe it's only been 3.5, 4 years since that happened, and it's like it never even happened for them. That's a quick turnaround on a major scandal, I feel.
Yeah.
Question number 8. Winning an Emmy in 2016 for The People vs. O.J. Simpson, what actor was actually first choice for the role of Forrest Gump and admits, quote, that was a mistake?
Oh, wow. Who could play Forrest Gump? Maybe, what's the name of that guy who plays Ferris Bueller?
Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, Matthew Broderick.
That's a great guess, but I was looking up kind of these first choice actor things. He was on that list for something else that I found kind of incredible. Walter White in Breaking Bad. Yes.
You know what? I'll bet he would have done great.
I think he would have done great too, but I mean, Bryan Cranston, I mean, that's all you see.
I only saw like the first 1 or 2 episodes.
Oh, you got to stick with it.
And I watched it. I was like, oh, this is going to turn out to be a crappy show.
It isn't. It's great. It's
5
great.
years later, people are like, "This is the greatest show in the history of television." I'm like, "Damn it, man!
I
should've
know.
kept with it."
Hey, listen, we
I
all
felt like that.
You felt like
dude.
Robert Wayne.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, Edman, he played Robert Shapiro in The People vs. O.J. Simpson. He's had a lengthy career, believe it or not, and I was shocked to hear this. It was John Travolta.
Oh wow!
Wow, right?
Yeah.
Maybe because they had that scene where he was dancing around with his leg implements. Maybe they
Yeah.
thought Travolta would have killed that. But this is even more amazing. Hanks was like fifth choice for this. This role was turned down also by Bill Murray,
Oh my goodness!
Chevy Chase,
Wow!
and Sean Penn.
You know
to name a
what?
few.
I would love to see each of their takes on that character.
Oh my God, me too. It's unreal, right? Question number 9. Operator of the largest financial fraud in U.S. history. This former investment advisor was sentenced to 150 years in prison in March 2009. I read this book. It was called The Wizard of Lies. Robert De Niro actually played him in an HBO movie by the same name.
2009?
Yeah, it was the biggest.
Wait, the movie was 2009, or what he did?
What he did was 2009. It was the biggest Ponzi scheme.
Milken?
No,
That guy was like
Michael
way
Milken
before
was in
that,
the
right?
80s or
yeah. Okay, 2009.
Yeah. I was so into this story for some reason. I couldn't get enough of reading
Man,
on
I'm not
this.
going to know this one either.
It was Bernie Madoff.
This is why. Oh, I knew that.
Yeah.
This is why I hate Game Time. I thought he was back in the early 2000s.
No, this happened over several years. Obviously,
Yeah.
Prosecutors estimate that Ponzi scheme was worth about $65 billion.
I should have just shot that name out just as a guess.
Madoff scammed thousands of investors, including the Mets ownership, the Wilpons. That cost us a lot of years in the 2000s of not being able to buy players because we lost it all in the Madoff scheme. That's another story. Actually, the SEC reports the actual losses to investors totaled about $19 billion to about 4,600 investors. I mean, a lot of them, life savings drained and all that. And it actually cost not only Madoff, but the people around him. His brother Peter got sentenced to 10 years in jail.
Yeah.
His son Mark committed suicide 2 years to the day after his father's arrest. And his other son, Anthony, unfortunately passed in 2014 from leukemia.
You know who had a huge Ponzi scheme? It was Ponzi.
What are you known for, man? Here, come here. If you can give me 10 of your friends, I will tell you what I'm known for. Those are pyramid scheme, Ponzi scheme. Ponzi scheme, when you take the money and you reinvest it, other people's money to pay off other investors, and it just keeps snowballing like that for those listeners who aren't quite sure what that means. Okay, here we go, Ed. Last but not least, I was kind of joking when I said I was doing another tragedy on 10, but I guess I didn't. The most significant accident in U.S. commercial nuclear power plant history occurred in 1979 at 3 Mile Island, which is located in what U.S. state?
Oh, come on. I know this. This is, oh my God. Come on, I'm going to look so stupid.
No, you're not.
No,
This isn't a common knowledge question.
Yes, it is. Oh my goodness. New York?
You're in the right area.
No, it's what's the
like
one next to
you're
it?
a neighbor, man. You're a neighboring state here.
New Jersey.
Pennsylvania. Again, when in doubt, the answer is going to be Pennsylvania, Ed, on this show, clearly.
I'm so upset.
On the 7-point international nuclear event scale, that baby got a 5. So that was a pretty big deal. Failures were both mechanical and human in nature. Cleanup started, get this, Ed, in 1979, and it didn't end until 1993 at a cost of over $1 billion. Nobody died in that event. So it wasn't a tragedy in human numbers, but financially and otherwise, it was a huge boo-boo.
Have you ever seen Silkwood?
Not yet, but I do want to see that. That was about the FBI agent, correct?
Yeah.
That was the Netflix documentary on that.
What about the China syndrome? Have you seen that one?
Was that about the bomb? Is that about the nuclear bomb?
I don't remember. What about the two Jakes?
No, I don't. I seem to remember. So there's a lot of boo-boos and mistakes in history that have altered the course of this country and others.
But
right?
we've gotten some great movies out of them.
We have, for sure. Well, Edman, not your best game time ever, but we won't call it a complete failure.
We can put it on the list. That's fine.
I think you got 3 or 4,
Great
right?
mistakes.
Great mistakes
of
in
2019.
Gaffe time history.
Gaffe time, yeah.
All right, Edman, off we go to news thing number 2.
News thing number 2.
All right, bud, we are headed to Perth, Australia for this next one. Now, Ed, I mentioned at the top of the show here, we're coming up on some good days of Florida summer here towards the back end of September and October, right? Which, to me, it feels like summer back home up north, but it's actually our fall into winter here.
Yeah.
We be in I like that low 80s, high 70s kind of vibe, right? When you have 4 months of 100 to 110 degrees, I mean, your skin
wears on
a
a man.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we are going to get into those months, and I like nothing more than to get some burgers, some dogs, some steaks. I mean, anything basically with bone and blood on it and just throw it on a grill, right? That's like one of the best parts of summer is grilling, I think. Well, there is a vegan massage therapist there in Perth. Her name is Scylla Carden. And Scylla would hate to be neighbors with me because she's taken her neighbors all the way to the Supreme Court there in Australia for the smells of meat and fish that are coming for their grills. She says she can't enjoy her backyard, and the dispute has robbed her of her quality of life there in Perth. Now, this, she says that, this is all they do. They put meat and fish on here, and that's all I can smell. I can't go out and smell my orange grove or whatever she's trying to smell. Yeah. She also, in these lawsuits, she's included cigarette smoke, chairs scraping on concrete,
right.
kids playing basketball outside, reflective lights, your standard sounds of summer, basically.
Right.
Well, this, believe it or not, Ed, it's been making its way through the courts since August of 2017. Huh. And she's just been getting turned down every time.
But this is like a form of noise pollution, but it's, it's air. It's air pollution.
It's nostril pollution. Well, Supreme Court Chief Justice Peter Quinlan there in Perth dismissed Mrs. Carden's latest appeal last month. He ruled after considering all of the material that Ms. Carden was, quote, given a fair opportunity to present her case, and the learned tribunal member conducted the proceedings fairly and appropriately. Now, while Ms. Carden says she's considering her further potential legal options, this is the part of the story I really enjoyed.
Okay.
Residents there in Western Australia started a Facebook group called, quote, Community Barbecue for Scylla Carden.
Oh, no.
Yes, they did. This event has been scheduled for October 19th.
Oh, my goodness.
But this was, how social media works, Ed. They had to shut this down real quick after Carden's attorney issued a warning saying police would be called if people showed up. And get this, 7,000 people there in Australia clicked the will attend button, with another 16,000 saying they were interested in the event.
Now that's going too far. That's not right.
This poor lady's like Steve Bartman. Her and Steve Bartman need to get together and just kind of hash it out. I feel
probably
like.
Lose her. She said she doesn't like this, and then they do it in her honor. That's so trollish.
It is
so
trollish.
Mean.
Well, event organizer Bailey Mason quickly canceled the barbecue, citing logistics and trespassing concerns, not trolling.
Logistics.
Yeah. However, it does, and this is funny, Ed, because I did a little research on this. A new event page has shown up right on its heels.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're going to actually try to go through with this barbecue or not. It might be best for Miss Carden just to maybe find a new neighborhood. I mean, I probably would. I'd be looking for a new place to go. Maybe a commune where they can share their favorite uses for tofu. All right, Ed, man, the double hitter to bring us into random facts.
Yes.
Random facts. Only two random facts for you today.
Okay.
I feel like
there must be good ones.
They're pretty good.
Yeah.
One of them's really good, close to my heart, but one of them's so-so. I just feel like the whole show was random facts today. We had a lot of stuff. A lot of
BS today.
A lot of info today, right?
A lot of nonsense.
Well, our first random fact from this date in history, September 11th, comes from 1985. That was where Pete Rose became baseball's all-time hit king.
Oh, wow.
They called him Charlie Hustle. He broke Ty Cobb's record of 4,192 base hits there in Major League Baseball. Finished his career with 4,256, which
My
still...
grandfather loved Pete Rose.
Yeah, he was a great player. Now
And that record is still standing?
Still
You're
by
kidding.
far. Yeah, by far. Ichiro Suzuki just retired. He had more hits than that combined between Japanese baseball and American baseball.
right.
But clearly the record.
Right.
Yeah. So Pete Rose, still not in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, Ed. Which clearly the guy who was the all-time hits
come
leader
on, man. I mean,
should be.
just put him in.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, he was banished from baseball in 1989 for gambling on the sport as a player manager. His team at the time, the Cincinnati Reds. After years of public denials, Rose finally broke down and came clean in 2004. Said he did gamble only on his team to win, though. Is what he claims, is what he said. Any of the baseball games he bet involving the Reds were for them to win, not to lose, like the famous scandal of the mid 1918, 1919, the 8-man out scandal, the White Sox throwing the World Series.
I had heard an interview with Pete Rose once, and they asked him what it was like to be in prison, and he said that they put him next to a toilet, the community toilet. Or something. I don't know how prison works, right? I don't even know if I'm using the right word.
We'll talk off air, Ed, man.
Tell me all about it later. And so he says that he'd all night, through the entire night, that every single time somebody would go to the bathroom, piss and a fart. All night, every night. Piss and a fart. And now... anytime I go to the bathroom and I piss and fart at the same time,
you think of Pete
I
Rose.
think of Pete Rose. And I'm like, he was right.
You're like, Charlie Hustle got me again.
And now hopefully all of you listeners, when you do that, will also think of Pete Rose.
You can't unhear it.
So he might not be in the Hall of Fame, but he is in the Hall of Fame of our memories forever.
Well, I honestly, this is my honest opinion, I think in our lifetimes we will see, baseball has become more accepting of gambling. You have DraftKings and FanDuel, the daily fantasy betting now. You have betting that's becoming legal in more and more states. I honestly do believe he'll get a reversal and he will be put in eventually. He did have the lifetime banishment from baseball, but he was inducted into the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame a couple of years ago in 2016. So they kind of buckled their stance on that.
Yeah.
I think the next domino to fall clearly will be
clearly
his enshrinement in the Hall of Fame, which he clearly deserves. I mean, you can't have the all-time hits leader in a game where thousands of players have played.
It's an odd omission.
It is an odd omission, for sure. Last random fact of the day, Edman. John Ritter passed away on this date in 2003.
Oh, my goodness. I thought he passed away a while... Oh, in 2003.
2003.
Okay.
Yeah, so 16
I forgot
years
this.
ago.
I forgot where you
Never forget.
I'm thinking of farting, and I'm like, forget.
Yeah, he was only
facts.
54, so I figured we'd do a little rehash on his great career. And if you're not familiar with him, a little too young, I know a lot of listeners will remember him from a bunch of things, but our younger listeners, check him out. He was a great comic and actor.
Well, I think what he did would be politically incorrect today. I don't think he.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that, actually. He was the son of Country Hall of Fame singer Tex Ritter, which was interesting. Yeah, he's probably best known for playing Jack Tripper in the 70s and 80s comedy Three's Company. That's where we remember him from. Come and knock on my door. Great show. It aired from 77 to 84. Basically, the premise was kind of a great premise, I think. It was really funny.
It was ridiculous.
It was at the time.
The show was ridiculous.
He had two female roommates, but
attractive female.
His landlord, and he was kind of a self-proclaimed Lothario a little bit, right? He was a playboy and he liked the ladies as well.
Usually unsuccessful in the show, but
correct.
Kind of.
Right. He had some old-fashioned landlords though that wouldn't allow this kind of living setup. He was like a struggling culinary student or something. He was learning how to be a chef or something.
Yeah.
So he had to pretend to be gay in order to live with these beautiful ladies. Yes. Of course, he had one blonde, one brunette, and they always dressed very scantily clad and revealing. But I mean, I remember as a kid thinking, oh my God, this is comedy gold. I'm loving this.
I thought it was comedy gold. thought it was genius.
In the last year of the show, he actually won an Emmy and the Golden Globe for Best Actor for that show. Yeah.
And he got innumerable guest spots on various successful shows.
Absolutely.
Also.
Well, younger fans might remember him from some of his movies. He was in the original It in 1990. As one of the kids there.
Oh, yeah.
He was in both the Problem Child movies in 1991. Remember those? Yeah. His last final live-action movie was in 2003, right before he passed, Bad Santa, where he played kind of the department store manager that wasn't appreciative of Billy Bob's antics.
I've not seen that movie, but I hear it's very
great.
funny.
In fact, there's a scene on YouTube with him and another late actor, comedian, Bernie Mac. And it's a very funny scene. They talked about this scene where they're having this conversation where John Ritter's character is scolding Bernie Mac for letting Bad Santa have sex with this lady in the dressing room and behind the Santa display. And they said while they were shooting that scene, they had to stop several times because cast and crew were just losing it. And it's a really funny scene if you look it up online. He also, at the time of his death, was on a sitcom. It was called 8 Simple Rules. It's actually called 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Daughter. But they shortened it to 8 Simple Rules. Also, the voice of PBS's Clifford the Big Red Dog from 2000 to 2003.
That was him?
That was him.
That was a great role.
He actually was nominated.
So friendly and
4
nice.
straight Emmys he was nominated for the daytime Emmys. On
Warm
that
voice just made you want to hug that dog.
Yeah. He appeared in over 100 films and TV shows total. Like
That's
you
a
said,
lot.
he got a lot of those kind of ancillary roles because of this.
Star roles.
And Don Knotts, who actually played Mr. Furley, the landlord on Three's Company. He passed in 2006, but before he did, he called him the, quote, greatest physical comedian on the planet.
Wow.
And he really was. He was kind of
very good.
He was kind of one of those Jim Carrey, Chris Farley-ish kind of guys before they became, exactly.
Chevy Chase.
Perfect, yeah. Well, Ritter passed away after suffering from heart problems while rehearsing on the set for that sitcom I was talking about, 8 Simple Rules. That starred Katie Seagal and Kaylee Cuoco, I think I said her name right. She went on to Big Bang Theory fame,
right?
And Katie Seagal went on to Sons of Anarchy fame, among other things. Ritter started complaining of chest pains and sweating profusely, and he was vomiting. So they literally took him across the street from the Walt Disney Studios. The hospital over there was the Providence St. Joseph Medical Center. Ironically enough, was where he was born as well.
Wow.
Yeah, they took him over there, and physicians at the time diagnosed him with having a heart attack, but his condition was not getting better. I mean, they'd stabilized that, but he was actually, his health was failing.
Yeah.
As they dug further, they discovered an aortic dissection, like a tear in the aorta that was leaking blood. So they brought him into emergency surgery to repair it, and unfortunately, it was unsuccessful.
Do they know what the tear came from?
No clue.
Oh my God.
I know, it's scary. I know.
Because now
anytime
if it came from a pratfall, I'm like, I can't do that.
No
over
more
50.
comedy. Yeah, so he ended up passing away, like we said, at age 54, only 6 days before his 55th birthday, which is coming up this week as well. He left behind his wife, Amy Yesbeck, who was a star on the 80s sitcom Wings. 80s or 90s? Wasn't Wings? You remember that about the pilots?
Yeah, that was a real good show,
Yeah, she was one of the stars of that, and he also...
That was like a Cheers successor.
He also had 4 children. Really, really funny guy. I do always, like we talked about, remember thinking that those jokes in Three's Company were just so, so adult and out of bounds. And now you look back on them now, and they're kind of tame. But, like you said, the PC... they really weren't concerned with the political correctness of it.
You got anything there about the Ropers?
There were tons of spinoffs from that show, of course, the Ropers.
But they were his first landlords, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. No. And again, there are believe it or not, when I was researching this story a little bit, I went on YouTube to see if I could find some clips and whatnot, and they have pretty much full seasons, full episodes and seasons of Three's Company. I was shocked. Like literally hundreds of these episodes just floating around there. It's crazy. But yeah, he seemed like, from everything I saw, all the interviews and the heartfelt emotions and speeches that the fellow actors and people gave him, seemed like he really was a peach of a guy.
I see we're down to the last card.
Yeah, Ed, speaking of peaches of a guy. That's you. You had a great show
I'm
again
a peach
today.
of a guy.
Yeah. And
I mean, wait. Maybe. What does that mean?
A peach of a guy. It just means you're just a real solid gentleman.
All right.
Yeah, a real peach, a real sweetheart. Anyways, guys, that is going to do it for another show here at the News Freaks.
Yes, another one in the can.
Hope everybody enjoyed it. Again, if you want to interact with the show.
Another one in the sack.
904-300-2475.
In the round file.
Shoot us a text. Also, hit us up on Twitter at News Freaks Pod, Facebook, The News Freaks, and also you can call Ed's personal phone number. Oh, no, you're saying no, not quite yet, but almost. We're almost going to give our personal numbers out if you guys just want to talk about it.
We're getting to the point where we just don't care anymore.
Guys, one more thing I want to say before we sign off. I was looking up some things.
Well, I want to thank whoever's giving us those nice reviews.
I was going to say,
reviews.
I just saw on Apple we have 3 or 4 5-star reviews, which is really going to help our standings and boost us up in the search engines, because right now we're still getting our footing, but we see you download us. We see the listens that keep increasing, and we really do appreciate you listening and enjoying the show and telling your friends and family.
So if you like us, 5-star The News Freaks, and if you don't, we thank you for listening to the Joe Rogan Show.
Yeah, on that note, Edman, I'm going to sign it off for the Edman. I am Terry. See ya!